to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Annie, roll call?
Mr. Sorensen.
Here.
Mrs. Geiger.
Here.
Mrs. Labuda.
Yeah.
Mr. Steingart.
Here.
Mrs. Edwards.
Okay, I'd like to start off with planning.
Geiger out.
Actually, you want to let me cut in
Oh, I'm
first.
sorry.
Monica, I'm so happy to see you.
I'm so glad to be here again.
I want to start off
What are you
with,
talking
I'm
about
sorry, Monica.
I am once again bringing everybody a public service announcement from Risk Management, and that the requests for the option forms are out. And if the staff would forward it on to staff in their office, we've tried to grab everybody and get the people that need to know, have this information. But if you have any department head meetings, anybody who needs to make a change to their benefits, bless you, has to do this form by November 22nd. Any kind of change to your benefits. So everybody's been seeing me at every meeting, just want to get the word out to people and just remind them it's a one-page form. They need to send it to Risk Management by November 22nd so we can provide them with an option form to change their benefits if need be.
Got that.
Okay?
Thank you.
I'm
Monica,
getting
thank
this
you.
down.
Okay.
Could you repeat that, please?
Come to the next meeting.
Cora wasn't here.
I can repeat it along with you now.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. Now I want to start with planning. We do have a resolution, which is to dedicate as parkland into perpetuity county-owned property located at in the town of Lebanon.
Move it.
I'll ask for a second. Cora. Okay, I'd like to have a brief discussion.
Yeah.
I know we have discussed this previously. Jill, if you'll just give us an overview.
Yeah, this is the part of the LWRP2 proposal for the river access projects that Heather Jackson from my office is working on. This would be for the one county-owned site in the town of Lumberland to go forward with a conceptual design for river access. And part of the grant requirement is to dedicate this county-owned parcel as parkland in perpetuity. Cindy stepped out? Okay, 'cause she had asked me who owned the other parcels as well, but I just wanted to let her know I had that information. And also as part of the LWRP, this project kickoff is scheduled for Tuesday, November 19th at 6 p.m. at the Tustin Town Hall. The emails went out last week. I think Annie got it, and some of the legislators, if any of the other legislators want to be on that mailing list, let me know, I can have Heather add you to it.
Well, I think we should
Okay.
just, as a standard form, we shouldn't have to ask to be on the mailing list, right? Annie, you send it out to all of us anyway.
Okay,
Because
so
I don't
if
think
Annie
I've
gets
ever
it, that's
gotten
good.
A comprehensive explanation of the whole riverfront project. I've only been told bits and pieces here, so.
And
The
this
puzzle
is
pieces haven't coalesced in my head.
this is the property in Pond Eddy.
Yep,
correct?
Pond
Yeah.
Eddy, it's part of our match for the grant, so we had an appraisal done on the property, and so that would go towards $25,000 of our in-kind match for this grant. And that would be part of the proposal.
Kitty?
You dedicating the land, transferring it from the county property to Tustin? To
No,
park?
it's remaining,
To park.
it's remaining county land. It's been county land since 1936 or something. It would just be dedicating it to,
Parkland.
the parkland.
Okay, but what I'm asking, I guess what I was wondering, as a park, would it be a park or it's river access? Is it gonna be boat access? Is there
That
gonna
is
be
part of-
bathrooms?
That is part, like we talked at the last meetings, there are, a river access proposed for each of the towns. There's a larger committee involved, to kind of identify what is gonna happen at each of those access points.
Edwards out.
So at this point in time, it's
So
only
the-
giving access, not how the access would be used. It
Right,
wouldn't
correct.
necessarily be a place where you could launch your
Right now,
It may
it would
be.
just become land that is dedicated in perpetuity. The next step is to then take, the consultant is gonna do conceptual workups of each of the sites, depending on what the committee decides, whether it's, you know, just, visiting the site, whether it's actually being able
Edwards
to launch
back
a
in.
boat, whether it's, bathrooms. That's gonna be up to the committees along the river and to the towns to decide what, you know, they want in their communities.
Thank you.
I think the goal, and it's, you know, part of the river management plan is, and other plans within the corridor, is to increase and provide additional opportunities for public access to the river. So I think this is a very positive step. I do want to recognize Sean McGinnis and Carla Hahn, who are both here from the National Park Service. And also wanted to give them a few minutes, maybe to, I know they didn't come in with a prepared presentation, but maybe comment a little bit on your role with this particular
Geiger back in.
project and other initiatives that you have, you know, within the corridor.
Thanks.
Sean?
Thanks for letting us come in and just meeting all of you and just talking about kind of the role the National Park Service plays in Sullivan County. It's a pleasure being here, and I've been trying to get here for 3 months, you know, and then we all were scheduled and we got shut down for 16 days, which was pretty embarrassing actually as a federal employee. I'm standing on the Pond Eddy Bridge with Heather Jaxie, and we're looking at this little piece of land, and it's, you know, vision. It's about the future. It's about the river, taking care of the river. River management plan, obviously, it's set up for basically conservation, preservation of a valley that's pretty incredible. It's I call it it's really the golden goose in the future. I mean, the valley has got incredible potential for economic possibilities and quality of life issues for Sullivan County. And so we've been working really hard to and do everything we can to get folks to recognize that taking care of the natural resources is the future. And so working with Heather and Jill on this, and your leadership has been, you know, really pretty cool, and getting the LWRP funded, at least the first couple of phases, and moving forward, it fits right into the kinds of things that we're trying to do. And that is providing, protecting land along the river is one thing, and that's what this piece does. And then providing opportunity for the folks to get to the river and get off the river. That piece right there is especially, there's some commercial property right across the street, right across 97, that has a potential that you could stop and get a burger and a beer, get some sodas. You know, so the future is about enhancing the opportunities for visitors, residents, and anybody that floats the river to have another spot. That property also has remnants of the old D&H Canal, so it's also it's a cultural site that would preserve that wall there. And then we're planning on partnershiping with the county on, you know, we can do trash removal, we can do law enforcement on there if you give us that authority through a cooperative plan. And we can do interpretive efforts. We can pay for interpretive media that goes there, you know, with really nice interpretive signs, and talk about the river, talk about the natural resources, talk about the history of the D&H Canal. So these are opportunities. Up and down the river, the LWRP provides those opportunities for the entire river. So that's, and that particular piece of property will really look, you know, it's not exactly the best piece to actually put like boats in and out, but if you can carry a kayak down to the river, it's still possible because there's going to be stairs there. But working with the Pond Eddy Bridge, replacing that, there's a possibility of even better access to that spot. So that's just one example of all the kinds of things that that we want to continue working with the county on, you know, but our main focus is basically trying to preserve the natural resources that are in the valley. And the most important message that for all of you is when the river management plan was developed, you know, with the locals, and when the legislation was passed by Congress, the concept was co-management. So, and then the authority, like my experience working in many other national parks across the country, is that we owned a lot of the land. Now I've worked in parks where we didn't own all the land. We have all kinds of situations, like Forest, for example, with 15 communities, 5,000 homes within the boundaries of that unit. the key thing for Sullivan County that we're trying to work and get understanding is that it's co-management. So in order for us to enforce the river management plan, basically to use that word in a good way, to enforce the conservation efforts, we need the county to recognize their role in protecting the natural resources and providing for the enjoyment of the visitors and the residents of that river and valley. So the key thing is zoning within the towns along the river, which is, so it's zoning of the towns, it's the county doing the things that are going to enhance the values, and then it's the state of New York that also has an executive order that says all agencies within the state will follow the principles and the guidelines of the river management plan. So that has gotten forgotten by a lot of people. So that's what we're trying to do, is educate folks about. This is a cooperative management. The land stays private ownership. However, we have to understand that in order to protect, that we have to have some zoning in place, and we have to have an agreement that the future is incredible for this valley. Having a national park unit in Sullivan County is going to be something that future generations are going to say, I'm so glad those guys figured this out and didn't let the natural resources get fracked or get developed, or ridgetop developments, or unnatural forestry or mining. These kinds of things are all allowed, but they're allowed at a certain level, and it's all spelled out in this plan that was done. It's a really good plan. It needs revision. You know, I know that that's not a great thing to say in the valley, but it really does, because there's a lot of things that are not current in this plan. So, you know, I mean, I'm the ambassador for this valley. I'm the guy who's trying to like say, wait a minute, this place is too special to do some of these things that really aren't appropriate. While at the same time saying, you know what, you guys aren't taking advantage of the brand of the Arrowhead. There's no sign on 97 that says Sullivan County, New York State. This is one of your only national park units in the state. It's the only wild and scenic river in the state of New York. And there isn't any recognition by folks that really want to benefit economically from things within this county. So you guys have to recognize that this is an economic engine, this river and this valley, and use the Arrowhead as a brand and say, folks, come visit our national park unit. And so that's what we're willing to work with you. We can get technical advice from our office in Philadelphia, our Washington office. We've got websites up now. If you look at MPS.gov/New York State, you can see all the statistics there, the numbers of people that visit park units in New York State, the amount of money that comes into the state because of national park units. Just look at that, and you'll be like, whoa. But how many people realize that we are actually even a national park? How many folks of you even really know the kinds of things that we're authorized to do, or the kinds of things that we can do for you in the future? So that's kind of what I've been trying to do, is just educate our folks in Philadelphia, you know, the National Park Service, the regional director and the staff, that the Upper Delaware needs more attention. We need some land and water conservation funds to come our way so that we can purchase some conservation easements. So instead of folks having to frack their land to get a few bucks to put their kids through college, they can get a conservation easement, or there's other methods of getting some money into this park unit than just taking advantage of some of these consumptive means of the land. So that's what we're here for, is to educate, and I'm educating the folks in Philadelphia. You know, I guarantee you the folks that live around Acadia National Park or Shenandoah are screaming and yelling about how come it's shut down to the thing, how come you guys aren't doing better accesses, how come the trails are in bad shape. Who's saying that about the Upper Delaware in Sullivan County, New York State? Not a single person.
That's
So
not true.
that is what your job is to
Yeah.
raise the flag and say, we've got one of 401 national parks in the United States is here in your county. And no one is saying, we want better access, we want to make sure that we have employees on the river, we want to make sure the river's safe, and we want to make sure, Sean, what do you need from us to make sure that you're providing our river better services so that our residents and our visitors, yours, can spend more money here?
Well, I'm glad you came, because I grew up here and I frequented all the parks. You know, the state parks, Mongauk and Little Pond, all those.
Yeah,
And that's what we're all about. My district is your end, your neck of the woods there. So, I appreciate you coming and making recommendations. You'll work with Jill, I presume, right?
Yes.
And let her know what legislatively we can do. Because we may be able to get some funding for sign, I don't know how that all works. We may be able to set some policies with our tourism agency to, you know, beef it up over there or whatever, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's a lot of great ideas floating around right now.
Well, you're there,
great.
so if you could get Jill the ideas,
Sure.
I'm chair of the Ag and Sustainability Policy Committee, but we're also working with the Farmland Protection Plan and all those things. So if you could get her recommendations that we can work on, concrete deliverable things,
Great.
we'll chew them all.
Great. And,
Well,
and, the- and
I'm
the
gonna
LWRP
recognize Gene next.
Well, we're both gonna respond. Don't say that nobody's doing anything. I was at the statewide Fish and Wildlife Board meeting. I represent this county on the Region 3 Fish and Wildlife Board. I brought the map and the packet that Jill had put together, and I brought it up there to the state park people as well as the DEC people. I have a regional meeting next month, and it will be brought up again. But people were very interested in it, and they said, well, we've heard about it, but nobody's really publicizing it. But I made it a point to say Sullivan County is part of New York State. We do have a national park. So, just so you know that.
Good, thanks.
Well, we need deliverables, because,
Yeah.
you know, the bottom line is really heritage, the tourism end of it, all that ties in, especially for my neck of the woods, minus casinos over there.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do to drive over where we are, and that's what it is. Tuesday, there is, through I Love New York, a heritage and tourism, conference up in Albany, which I plan to attend. So I'm sure that we can tie something in with Fort Delaware and
Yeah.
different things like that.
Okay.
Well, and the other thing is,
Right.
just to respond to Cindy, is that Carla and Sean are involved in this, the river accesses, and they, you know, one of the goals of the project is to kind of create some sort of brand or, you know, marketing that will kind of tie all of the access together. And so whether, you know, it can branch off of the Arrowhead design or how all that's coordinated, so that there is a constant feel that you are in the national park. That's my understanding, is that that is gonna be worked into these projects.
Yeah, and making sure that, because of the concern about the private property and all the folks in the valley, is to really capitalize on that. And just things like, you know, this is a unique opportunity, basically one of the first in the world to have a protected area that's really all private property and manage it through cooperative efforts and recognition of the future. And so, you know, by recognizing that and stroking all the folks in the towns and landowners that, you know, they're doing a great job and the future's bright, is kind of what we need to do, instead of, you know, saying, you know, we're from the federal government, we're gonna take care of this. We have to really get the people involved. And the LWRP is a good example, and it's not just 6 accesses. The concept of the LWRP, when it first started, you know, when Heather introduced it, is tying Sullivan County communities together so that folks are doing things consistently and in a coordinated effort, in a way that protects the resources, number one, and enhances opportunities to bring visitors in, and at the same time improving quality of life. So the LWRP is something that's bringing us together, instead of just like saying, well, 6 accesses and we're done. That's
This is
what I'm
just
hoping.
one
Systematize it.
implementation
Yeah.
project within the whole plan.
Yeah.
So this is,
Carla,
you
did
know,
you want to speak?
First of all, I'm gonna share information because this is gonna be your follow-up homework, of course. I brought 12 packets with just summarizing information about the Upper Delaware, a little bit about tourism, and a little bit about the river management plan. But the other thing that I like to share, and you'll hear me say it several times, is roughly 1/3 of the counties of the townships of Sullivan County run along the Delaware River. And so, and as a resident of Sullivan County, I think it's really important that we pay a lot of attention to that side. With casinos, it'll be great. We'll have that type of visitation and that type of things to do over here, and it'll be exciting and a lot of bright lights. And on the other side, people can go for a couple of days and rejuvenate and restore.
One of the other things that I've been working with Nadia Reich is the concept of visitor center. You know, and I'm sure visitor centers have been talked about. And you know,
Yep.
we have this is just my vision. We have an opportunity to do it right, and not just kind of do a visitor center because we really want a visitor center and it's just going to go the first place. It really needs to be done with vision. It needs to be somewhere that's on a hill that it sees the river, and sees the beauty of Sullivan County and Wayne County and Pennsylvania, New York, and this concept. You know, so that's kind of, we need to do it right if we're gonna do it, and we
I agree.
have time. But, Nadia is working on a possibility of a visitor contact, a visitor center, whatever, however it turns out, down there on the river. And it's a great opportunity because it adjoins, the federal property, well, Park Service property, your land right there on the river. We can have river access there, and we can combine it to the historic nature of the Corwin Farm and the D&H Canal, the old farm building. And we could work together. We can do garbage pickup, we could do law enforcement, we can do interpretive services. So if she pulls this off, it's a possibility. At least we could have something in the near future that we could point people at to get safety information, the history of the valley. The D&H Canal is back there, the trail that could be people to walk on it. So it's a really cool site. It's a great opportunity. And you know, I've been around, and when we're talking dollars, this can be done with in such little amount, and we can get such a big benefit for this, what Nadia's looking on. So that's the only thing why I said, let's try to make this happen. So that's what we're working with her on that, so.
I think it's right, Cora.
Well, when you said that thing about the visitor center, it reminded me, I got a call from the governor's office yesterday. This guy named Bob Meyer, or Mayor. And one of the things I brought up to him, he works with the I Love New York office, is when you're driving from New York to Pennsylvania, you see how many signs? Welcome to Pennsylvania, you're in Pennsylvania, you're still in Pennsylvania. And when you come the other way into New York, and I think what I would like to see is, how is it on the town level, how is it on the county level, how is it on the state level, and how is it on the federal level, that we have these different opportunities, funding opportunities, so that, you know, it's almost like a layer cake, and that it's very clear, because I didn't realize until we started having these conversations that you guys did the Lowell, Massachusetts, the National Park Service, and I'll just be very brief about Lowell, Massachusetts. I actually taught the grant at NYU. Lowell, Massachusetts is one of the case studies that I used. Since 1978, they've gotten federal funding of $200,000 every summer for their festival. And that festival, their match, their local match, is all the volunteer hours that matches that $200,000. So part of the thing that's so important about that is, who was the president in 1978? How many presidents have we had since 1978? This is there as part of their, in perpetuity, they're gonna be getting $200,000. And the grants.gov says there's only one recipient that's ever gonna get it. Somehow or other that, you know, we've got Narrowsburg, we've got Berryville, we've got all the towns along the river, and I never knew that, you know, you guys were the funders, right?
If this is an appropriate time for conversation on that issue, part of the complexity is that we're 3 counties, we involve 3 counties, I'm just talking New York side. 2 on the Pennsylvania side.
Yeah.
Right, 15 townships, 6 of which are Sullivan County, 5 counties, and it's difficult pulling the bureaucracies together. We really need some help in that area. But there have been inroads, and the departments of transportation. There have been inroads with attempting to get some of these things off the ground. But the partnership aspect is the most difficult thing to get across. So that if we get people on both sides of the river pushing for the same things, signage. Route 84. Route 84 is a perfect example. The heritage area, the Hudson Valley Heritage Area, if you're going from Port Jervis toward Newburgh, big sign. You head from Newburgh to Pennsylvania, no sign for Upper Delaware Scenic and Recreational River, and that's partly a partnership issue. So your folks' help would be great. I-86 would be another great opportunity.
I'd like to thank Cora. She's been a great trooper. We've been doing a lot of meetings together in the last couple of years, trying to solve problems and, you know, make inroads into the future, so I appreciate it, Cora.
Well, I think also a shout out to Carla, because when we had the Mid-Hudson Region Economic Development Council meeting at SUNY Sullivan, Carla got up and said, you know, there are 2 rivers in this economic development region. And the Delaware River is a tremendous economic engine. 250,000 people come through there.
Between 250 and 300, depending on the weather.
And we're not capitalizing on that.
What did you mention about the zoning piece?
Well, in order for us to protect
There's 3 rivers.
the outstanding remarkable values for why the river's
Everybody
set up,
forgets the
there's
Neversink.
5 of them, you know, and they're obvious. There has to be some
Don't
kind of
forget the
zoning,
Neversink
it's the
River.
river corridor zoning, ridge to ridge within the valley. And the towns are required to have, some kind of, they're required to be in substantial conformance with the land project guidelines, which are building on slopes, you know, 1 house every 2 acres. It's the typical kind of zoning things for like conservation type of zoning. Towns are required to have that in place. And most of them do, but it's getting water, they're changing zoning. For example, Delaware just changed some of their zoning, and it wasn't to the benefit of the river management plan.
I see, so are you working with those towns to make sure that?
We work closely with the Upper Delaware Council, who then is kind of working really closely with the town. We
I
work,
guess you don't get one, too.
you know,
Life goes
I do
on.
everything,
Hey,
anything I
Alan, you need
can.
an ice committee, there you go.
So yes, we're really working closely with folks to say, don't forget, you know, there's kind of rules that everybody agreed to follow back in 1987.
So how do you approach a town like that, that change the zoning, you know, against the original?
This is a challenge.
We beg them, please, you guys, land what is guidelines. National Park Service has the authority to purchase land. If a town starts doing things that may be in non-conformance with the plan, or be a harm to the 5 values, you know, scenic, geologic, recreation, ecological, and cultural. Those are the 5 values. Congress said, whoa, this place is awesome in all 5.
Has everything.
So let's designate this, and let's not only designate the river, let's designate the land also, but keep it private. That's how it's set up. It's really a
Was
risk.
there a sign on that the town agreed to or something? or-
Yes, towns all signed on.
So they
when-
just disregard the agreement?
They may not even know. it
People
exists.
don't
Well-
remember, it's different people, so, and, you know, so it's very complicated, it's not as simple as.
I think,
Well, I know.
We
what's
could do
going
But-
on.
it.
but
Maybe
we
it
can
works
take
on it.
I know what's going on.
When was the designation made?
78,
78.
and then the river management plan was signed off by the state and the governor and, towns and the county in 87.
I think it would behoove us as a legislative body to kind of take some time to go back and read that agreement.
Yeah.
To see what we can do to fulfill at least our role in that agreement.
Could we at least support that role, you know, send a message out, right?
Yep.
We
Well,
go
Jill,
out to
and
the
Jill's
town.
office has helped us a little bit because some of the zoning needs to go through the county, and she's helped a lot on that, making sure that the towns recognize they're supposed to be in conformance with zoning.
At least they know they're supposed to be, whether
Right.
they do it or not.
Our
So is
advisory
it like a
comment.
zoning overlay that
Yeah.
you're saying that
Yeah.
this is,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So that's actually a service that the county and the feds can provide, right?
Yep, yep.
But again,
Just from experience, you know, I'm very familiar with the topic, spent a lot of time out there when we were pursuing the scenic byway. So it's also a topic that I think is one that, you know, you extend the olive branch to have a discussion, you know, with the towns to try to pursue some of these initiatives. I think it's, you know, bottom-up type of effort. And I think that towns have kind of slowly moved in the right direction. I think there's other steps that they can take. But certainly, I think it is probably long overdue for the county to kind of take a hard look at what we agreed to as a county body when the river management plan is put in place, and to see if we're fulfilling our obligations.
So for your December committee, could you work with Jill and maybe, you know, get us that information so we could review it and support that
Yeah, I
message?
think we could probably maybe even do a small presentation where go through what the county agreed
Yeah.
to do and kind of see where we are, and then we can have conversations. I'd welcome that, but I do see the Upper Delaware as an incredible resource, and we don't promote it enough. I mean, really, in addition to the sign to Bethel Woods, there should be a sign there, National Park, go down 17B, and, because it is an incredible resource.
And it's yours. It's not the Park Service's park. It's yours. This
Yeah.
is Sullivan County's park.
And
Yeah,
I'm
I mean,
sorry
we're-
for being,
Yeah.
uninformed, but the Minisink Battleground, Fort Delaware, I know Fort Delaware is county, but, does the
So is
National
Minisink.
Park Service,
Apples.
stretch out throughout those historical battlegrounds and things
We
too?
do programs on the battleground.
Yeah.
We have permits to do programs on the battleground.
From her farm.
We haven't done programs at Fort Delaware, but, we have been talking about opportunities to do things together, with the fort. The fort is struggling right now, as you all know. It's a great site and has a whole lot more potential than what it has had, acquired in the past. But, yeah.
And then, Bill, we're gonna
There's
do.
still a motion on the floor that has to be
Great
voted
mountain
on.
building bridge that we're gonna put in your center, county center, at, So, hey, so we're doing whatever we can to work together, because it's about the people, it's about the residents, so.
One more thing I'd like to, add to that, and that's, as you're reviewing that, there's a whole other story that goes with, when you look at what the county's responsibilities are, the paragraph might be this big, and I can tell you that story some other day, but what I'd like you to look for is the opportunities.
Okay.
There are a lot of opportunities for the county in there that aren't specifically assigned to the county, or, yeah,
Okay.
no, in the river management plan.
I wanna-
That's this book.
Iris has his hand up.
In the first few pages.
I was just curious, does the federal government own some percentage of the property in the park?
We
Very
own,
small.
we own 30 acres, just
30
under 30 acres, right. The plan really only allowed the Park Service, the legislation only allowed us to own 1,200 acres. And then the river management plan that was agreed on by all the locals whittled it down to 124 acres. So we're following the plan, so we only are allowed to own 124 acres according to the plan. Now, if we revise the plan, I'd like to up that a little bit, now that people understand, most people understand that we're not here to condemn farms and take it away,
Yeah,
and that's not what we're
that's
about.
right.
So, there's opportunities for us to maybe have some other lands, it could be conservation or it could be accesses, stuff like that, just administrative
So,
purposes.
For example, the land we're talking about here, the resolution that's in front of the legislature now, I mean, is there some benefit for them to adopt this resolution and to
Absolutely.
then convey the property?
No, we don't want it, and the concept of the plan is we don't really wanna own land,
Okay.
we just wanna cooperatively manage.
Okay.
So that you get that land, then we can help you manage it.
So does that river plan restrict, besides local zoning, certain uses of
Yes.
the property?
It restricts certain uses, yes.
Yeah, I'd like to get or see, an outline of that
That's in that,
Park.
that's in
There's
that.
an outline in this booklet,
in here.
in that,
Oh.
the handout that I gave you.
Because we take, we foreclose on property along the Delaware every year,
Yes.
Yeah.
and often sell it,
Yeah.
whereas maybe we ought to look to see what part of that's in the park and then determine the best use for it.
That would be great.
Absolutely,
That
yeah.
would be great.
So we need to have an idea where that property is.
Okay,
All right,
okay, great. We'll get that.
okay.
Okay.
Thanks,
So,
Bill.
very good discussion.
Thank you, yes.
Thanks, Jill, I really
We-
appreciate what you're doing.
We still need to vote on this resolution,
Well,
so.
we have motion and a second, right?
All
All in favor, aye.
All in favor? Anyone opposed? Passes
5-0.
unanimously. Okay, we have a, resolution from Real Property to correct the 2013 tax roll for the town of Coshocton.
Move it, Kathy.
Second? Linda, do
Cora.
you wanna?
Yeah, the error in this case was caused by the inclusion of the value of an improvement to real property which was not in existence.
Okay.
And the cost to the county is $2,434.88.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Discussion, not seeing any. All in favor? Anyone opposed?
5-0.
Now, I want to also give Linda an opportunity to discuss the Superstorm Sandy Assessment Relief Act.
Yes, it's a tongue twister. The governor signed into law the Superstorm Sandy Assessment Relief Act for those property owners in an eligible county to ask for a reduction in their assessment for Sullivan County. It would mean the 2013 town and county tax roll. It would actually be the county portion of the town and county tax rolls as a result of damage to improvements to real property during Superstorm Sandy. And although I don't know enough about this, I'm going to be attending a webinar on Tuesday. I did want to mention it to you. I'm not sure if any of the towns have signed on to authorize this or any of the other taxing jurisdictions within Sullivan County. But it would allow a property owner to fill out a form to get a reduction in their 2013 county taxes. It goes from, for parcels that have had a damage to their property and a loss of value for at least 10%, and it goes up to 100% loss. The resolution, if the county were to entertain authorizing the county residents or county property owners to take advantage of this, must be passed by December 6th. It's 45 days after the law was written. That's why I mention it today. If the legislature is inclined to authorize this, we would have to adopt a resolution by December 6th. I would ask to bring it on for the executive committee if that's the will to do so.
When's the webinar?
The webinar is on Tuesday.
Because there's two questions, I don't know if they'll be answered in the webinar. One, does that make it permanent, or?
No, well, I believe, because what it states is it's for the period during the storm itself, which was October 29th through November 3rd, and it's for the assessment roll. It affects the assessment roll, which has a taxable status date prior to October 28th of 2012, which would have been the March 1st, 2012 assessment roll, which would have an impact on the 2013 county taxes. So I believe it's only for that period of time.
Because some people haven't even had a chance to do anything to their houses.
If they had damage to their property, that could have been picked up in the 2013 assessment roll. So this would only be for those properties that would have been taxed in 2013.
So it's only good for 1 year?
It's only for the 1 year. That's correct.
Well, since the tax rate has already been set, that's one question. How does that affect? We set our tax rate for 13.
That would not affect the tax rate. It would affect.
That's what I'm saying, so
Sounds like it would be more like a refund.
It would be either a refund or a credit on 2013 town and county
and
taxes.
who would be the person
Well, the county
to
would have to
assess,
refund, the assessor
assess
would
the
have to
value
make.
if it's accurate or not?
The assessor the property owner would have to file
Could
an
affect our budget.
application for this. The application deadline is January 21st of 2014. The assessor would then have the opportunity to review the information and make a determination of whether or not it fits one of the categories. And the categories would be 10% to 20%, but not less than 20%. At least 20%, but not less than 30%, and so on until we come to 100%.
I think there's a lot of questions we have to
Right.
sort through. Yeah.
Right, I just wanted to mention it to everybody, and like I said, I'll be attending the webinar, and I'll have more information for you, mention it again at executive.
Do you want me to put this on for discussion item for executive?
Yes, but
Linda,
And
thank you.
I can prepare a resolution and have it ready, if that's, the will of the legislature.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ira, do you have anything to update?
Yes.
Okay.
The committee that's charged with dealing with the issue of county participation in tax certs and exempt cases met the other day. What I would like to do is, we talked about the goal being to have a resolution in front of this body, hopefully put on the agenda, if it's okay with you, next week.
Sure.
We're sort of in a catch-22, that's the problem, which
Yeah.
is, we all feel that we ought to get we discussed this before, we ought to get an appraiser to look at some of these properties, but.
Annie, did you hear that?
No, I'm sorry, I was telling Linda when I would need the resolution
Yeah,
by.
and he asked me before. Was her
You're all
idea.
set? You got it for the agenda?
The tax search to be.
Yeah, you're gonna, by Tuesday morning.
And, so we've heard from one appraiser that Sam contacted.
Exactly.
I'm in touch with another, but in the meantime, it seems to me we have to identify the properties. And we'll
No.
either look at those next week to have the appraiser look at them.
Sure. Executive will start at 7 a.m. next week.
Stop, would you stop?
I'll be the only one who's on
They
time.
want it.
There's
I already
also,
wanted
if it's
a
okay with
handout
you,
then.
Yeah.
I don't
there were
like
two
the
handouts that came from the
All right,
advisory
whatever.
board
Oh, that's what
discussion.
these were.
Move it. All right, so tell her that. then.
Whatever it is.
They're both, well,
All right.
I appreciate that.
Linda,
I just want you to know,
Have
so
it
you
ready
know
for
what you're
Thursday,
voting on,
don't give it to
that, one involves that Gordon property, which was much discussed.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we know what we're voting on.
who moved it?
Jill, you
I'm
need a
sorry,
copy?
who moved it?
I'll take it.
There's two.
Kathy.
Kathy,
I didn't need
second,
to sign that, right?
Cora.
Don't look at me, I'm not on the committee.
Do we move them as a block? What are we doing?
But the advisory
Yeah,
board
why don't we?
recommends both of these resolutions.
Well, then you can move
Kathy,
this
are you
along.
moving them as a block?
Can I-
Second by Cora as a block?
Yes.
Okay, they're both moved as a block, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so I have a
Motion.
first and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Oh, she's gonna buy that?
Yeah.
Five zip.
Holy,
Okay.
finally.
Public comment?
Any public comment?
Do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did that one.
Kathy and six,
I
Cora.
don't remember.
Okay.
I'm not on this committee. What do I know?
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay.
Kathy, Cora.
15 minutes.